Coin traders, what is going on? Looking at Chainlink, Link on that ticker. Link Marines, how we doing? And a lot of hype right now going on for Chainlink. And one of the interesting things about this chart is that it's one of the few cryptos that's just been in this long channel for about 17 months now. So definitely kind of pretty boring along, but I guess that's better than an overall downtrend for the crypto just to see constant flatlining prices. So expecting this to actually hold up here, and we're going to be talking a lot about the supports right now and kind of what we expect next for Chainlink. So if you're a fan of this type of content and you're enjoying the show, would appreciate hitting the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you have not done so just yet. And so do want to start off the show looking at the monthly chart. Don't typically look at this that often, but I think it's extremely relevant right now for this Chainlink chart. So one of the things on this monthly chart is that I actually want to focus on this overall sideways trading pattern here a bit for a second, because if I actually zoom in on this overall pattern here, one of the things that's extremely important to note is that let's actually go ahead and turn off the 12 and 26 period exponential moving averages, because right now, since we have had the formation of a 50 period monthly moving average, we are now getting stuck up at this level, as we can see time and time again over the last 17 months, seeing multiple tests of rejection and actually establishing this as a point of resistance that is proven and actually holding up. Now, if we look at the monthly as well, we can see that monthly closing resistance is coming in right at 786. And this has proven itself multiple times. So we know it's an extremely strong relevant resistance line, especially combined with the upside resistance from this exponential moving average. So lots to actually shoot up here and break. Now, if we pull up the volume, one of the things that's significant is that kind of an overall decrease in bullish volume, and essentially all volume here for this overall monthly chart. So the fact that on the most amount of strength, for the overall link chart, that was coming off the May of last year lows, and especially seeing a lot of resistance being unable to break the 786 line. Now, since we have had decreasing a bullish volume, it is proven to be a little bit more tough to actually see the bulls find that break. But we also know that a lot of the other crypto market space is in an overall downtrend as well. So the fact that we are seeing prices just be sideways for pushing a year and a half is one of the better signs for a longer period of accumulation before ultimately, in theory, finding an upside break. Because we know that if we are going to see a break of support, and right now we're coming in at monthly closing support right at 555. So I do expect that if this was going to be breaking, we would have actually seen a break and a hold below this line already. Now, that's definitely not to say that it is impossible to see downside prices, but especially with a lot of these lower highs coming in for Chainlink, and we're just kind of seeing an overall downtrend, especially as confirmed by this 50 period exponential moving average. Lower highs and the inability to actually break a lot of the previous highs up to potentially just below the $10 level has been an extreme struggle for the Chainlink Marines here. So that's really what we're going to need to see in the coming months here. So we do have just under 3 days left on the current monthly candle until we see a close. So probably nothing of significance to come in before this monthly candle closes. So really it is going to determine what happens on the follow-on monthly candle here in October. But because we know that the volumes are so minimal, any type of volume coming into the space at all is really going to accelerate the direction of that move. And so specifically, if we actually start to see a little bit of higher highs and we do get a little bit of increased bull volume, that's really going to start to smash through. And once we actually see a monthly close on top of the 786 level, that's really going to be one of the surefire signs that we are expecting to see to lead us to a little bit more of that confirmed breakout. Now, ideally, we would love to see a backtest retracement and confirm this level as that support before taking off again. But typically in a strong market, that is what we are going to see, especially after having almost a year and a half of such strong closing level of resistance. Now, so next thing I want to look at is the 12 period EMA, because right now that's actually what we're getting stuck up as well. So you can see the current monthly candle is getting stuck up just like last month with this level as closing resistance. So current 12 period EMA on this monthly is 7649. The previous one, it was 7657. So the fact that the last 2 months we have maintained closing resistance, not only below the 786 line of resistance that's held for a year and a half, but also below this 12 period exponential moving average. Now, we also know that this EMA is significant because we've already seen a test of it. And if we actually zoom out on the chart, we can see how relevant it has been, especially as resistance, as support, and then also down as support. And then looking all the way farther left, Coming right off the 2019 move, the price was sitting right along this 12 period on the monthly and pretty much rode on top of it, path of least resistance to the upside all the way until we peaked at our high for Chainlink, which came in at 52.99. Now, for the monthly, turning back on the 26th, we can see that extremely relevant line of resistance as well. Resistance, also previous support, and then previous support coming off of the March 2020 COVID flush. So this does prove just how reliant we are for the price overall action on these exponential moving averages, and that's why they are so critical to pay attention to when we talk about resistance. Now, with that said, though, since we haven't even had a full bearish flip yet, that will be one of the things that the Chainlink Marines actually seek to do is find a break on top of this big level of resistance, as well as punch through not only the 12 and the 50, but now up overhead the 26, because the last time price was anywhere close to it, it was a big point of resistance for 3 months in a row, back during February, March, and April of 2022 last year. But with that said, this is also the closest that we've ever seen these monthly EMAs come to when we have been in this bearish market trend. So that's actually one of the things that we do like to see when we are in a bearish formation and an overall bearish sentiment for the market space, is just to have exponential moving averages get in extremely tight. Because then that does kind of act as a compression top, if you will. And ultimately, when we do see a huge break above those levels, especially a close after a back test and another continuation and follow through to the upside, we really start to see that growth just kick off. So even back in 2019, we had exponential moving averages that were pretty close together. And then the price started taking off, and that's what really separated these exponential moving averages, especially as the price skyrocketed towards the upside. So the next upside target would be the $10 psychological, just shy of that actually, about 9799, so about 980. And so that will align with the 26 period exponential moving average on this monthly. And then as well, we also saw as previous points of price rejection and resistance, but as well on our August 20th to about the January of 2021 move, we saw this level just in consolidation where we found monthly closes consistently on top of this 980 level. So we had 5 months proven where we actually found support on top of this price level, just showing how extremely relevant it was until May of 2020 when we actually bursted down below it to find our lows, which actually broke and saw the monthly close below that 980 level. Now, I want to actually pull up the relative strength index, the RSI, and talk about this on the monthly again, because we've actually already seen our low and effectively a double bottom coming in for this RSI. Now, this yellow line across the RSI is the exponential moving average for the RSI, and it kind of acts as a more or less an exponential moving average in the sense that when the RSI is above the moving average, that's a little bit more bullish than when the price, or the RSI, excuse me, is below this moving average, which is kind of like what we experienced. But now we are starting to see this interaction where we're starting to get this nice bullish cross and a little bit more path to the upside. So looking at the fact that we've already seen the lowest levels for the monthly RSI, we're now forming higher lows on this RSI, and also now we are seeing upside on top of this exponential moving average. That's showing a little bit more strength to the upside, especially forming new higher highs. Now, if we actually want to go ahead and flip over to the weekly chart, several things to look at, because if we're talking about this RSI, we've been in an uptrend since May of last year when we actually found our bottom. And in fact, we actually didn't even see oversold conditions for Chainlink on this monthly chart, or this weekly, excuse me, which we've actually seen on a lot of other cryptos to include Bitcoin. So now, being in an overall uptrend, higher highs, higher lows forming on this RSI trend, I do expect to actually see a little bit of run up to see an RSI above the 60 line. And if I do zoom out a little bit, you can see how between the 50 and 60 line, that's actually a pretty extremely relevant zone, because previously when we were in an uptrend and did see our all-time highs, we more or less saw this weekly RSI staying above, and we did see trading in between this 50 to 60 zone, but more or less any break below the 50 was pretty quickly bought back up. So break below, break below. And so conversely, it's kind of been the opposite now ever since we did break below it back in the spring of 2021. But we've just had every single rejection point possible in between this zone. So if we actually see this RSI on the weekly get back above the 50 and be able to maintain it, I would expect that to be a signal that does line up with breaking a lot of the previous resistances and actually starting to change the trend after being stuck in a sideways pattern for the last 17 to 18 months. So now looking back at this weekly again, do want to focus on the exponential moving average setup, because this is the first time since flipping the exponential moving averages on this weekly to a bearish formation, that we've actually seen the weekly rally above the 50 period and actually have the potential shot again and actually seeing a follow-on upside after holding a higher low. So initially we found our low just above the $5 level, ran up, broke this level, but not by much, and then retraced quickly back below the 12 and 26, where we found them as resistance once again. So especially after rejecting, forming a higher low, and actually seeing another test of a potential to break through the 50 period EMA, like we said, this would be the first time that that's happened since back in January 2022, excuse me, but that's also when we were still in a more or less hadn't flipped into a full complete bearish formation on these exponential moving averages just yet. So now in addition to that, if we actually peek at these exponential moving averages again, you can just see how close the 12 and 26 has been for a while, which also has allowed this 50 period to just run down and actually get really close as well. So expectation is that even if we do reject below a previous high of 8443, as long as we do maintain a higher low on top of the previous low of 573, that would put us into a consolidation period, allow these exponential moving averages to get extremely tight, and then expectation for that would be a very nice bullish break happening at the end of the year or early into next year in 2024. So I think on the shorter term charts, everything else is just going to be noise right now, since on the weekly and monthly, that is really what we need to see. But overall, I think the decentralized oracles are going to be a great space, especially for such many needed things on DeFi and everything else across the board for smart contracts and whatnot. Definitely to have a reliable source of data is going to be essential for the future adoption and growth of blockchain. So I think Chainlink is going to be one of those projects. And especially after proving itself and not maintaining any sort of lower downtrend, despite being boring for the last year and a half, I think this could be one of the solid projects to have a little bit more focus on here as we do enter an upcoming crypto cycle. But anyway, yeah, would love to know everyone's thoughts and predictions and whether or not you disagree and all that. Let me know down in the comment sections below. Do love getting back to each and every one of you. If you're not currently following me on Twitter, go ahead and drop me a follow. Lots of discussions and updates over there at coin_trades is the handle for Twitter or X. That is going to wrap up the show for today, though. If you did enjoy the content, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you have not done so just yet. Do appreciate all the continued love and support. As always, it does mean so much. Stay safe, take care, everyone, and I'll catch you back in the next video.